My name is Karen, I'm 32 years old, and I need to tell you about the dollhouse my 6-year-old daughter Emma found in our new house. The dollhouse that was an exact replica of our home, down to the smallest detail. The dollhouse where everything Emma did to the tiny dolls inside would happen to us in real life. I'm a single mother, and 3 months ago, Emma and I moved into a beautiful Victorian house on Maple Street. It was our fresh start after her father left us. The house was old but charming, with original hardwood floors and a huge attic that Emma was excited to explore. I should have researched the house's history before we moved in. I should have asked why such a beautiful property was being sold so cheaply. But I was desperate for a new beginning, and the price was too good to pass up. The previous owners had left quickly, the realtor said. Family emergency, she explained vaguely when I asked about the furniture they'd abandoned in the attic. They just wanted out as fast as possible. I thought we were lucky. I had no idea we were walking into a trap that had been set 50 years ago by a little girl who died in that house. A little girl who was still there, still playing, still looking for someone to join her games. The first few weeks were perfect. Emma loved her new room, I loved the space and the quiet neighborhood. The house felt warm and welcoming, like it was happy to have a family living in it again. Emma had always been an imaginative child, but in the new house her creativity seemed to blossom. She would spend hours playing elaborate games, having conversations with imaginary friends, creating entire worlds in her mind. "Mommy," she said one evening, "can I explore the attic? I hear music up there sometimes, like a little girl singing." I told her it was probably just the wind in the eaves, but I gave her permission to look around up there during the day. The next Saturday morning, Emma disappeared upstairs for hours. When she finally came down for lunch, her eyes were bright with excitement. "Mommy, you have to see what I found," she said, practically bouncing with joy. She led me up to the attic, past boxes of Christmas decorations and old furniture covered in dusty sheets. In the far corner, under a small window, was the most elaborate dollhouse I'd ever seen. It was a perfect replica of our house. Same Victorian architecture, same blue shutters, same front porch with white columns. But what made my breath catch was the detail. The tiny furniture inside was arranged exactly like our furniture. The miniature rooms were painted the same colors as our rooms. "Isn't it amazing, Mommy?" Emma whispered, kneeling in front of it like she was in church. "It's our house but tiny. And look, there are dolls that look just like us." He was right. Inside the dollhouse were 2 small dolls, a woman with brown hair like mine and a little girl with blonde hair like Emma's. They were even dressed in clothes similar to what we were wearing. I should have been alarmed, but the dollhouse was so beautiful, so intricately crafted, that I convinced myself it was just a coincidence. Maybe the previous owners had been a mother and daughter too. Maybe they'd commissioned this dollhouse as a custom piece. Emma became obsessed with it. Every day after school she would run straight to the attic to play. I could hear her up there talking to herself, moving the tiny furniture around, creating elaborate storylines. The first time something strange happened, I almost didn't notice it. Emma had moved the mother doll to the kitchen and posed her cooking at the tiny stove. That evening, I found myself making dinner when I hadn't planned to cook at all. I'd been intending to order pizza, but suddenly I was standing at the stove, preparing a full meal without remembering the decision to do so. The second incident was harder to dismiss. Emma had placed both dolls in the living room, with the mother doll reading to the child doll. That night, I found myself reading to Emma. Not unusual, except that I was reading from a book I'd never seen before. A leather-bound collection of fairy tales that I didn't remember buying. "Where did this book come from?" I asked Emma. He shrugged. "It was on my shelf. I think it's always been there." But I knew every book in our house, and this one was definitely new. Over the next few weeks, the incidents became more frequent. Emma would arrange the dolls in certain positions, and I would find myself unconsciously mimicking those actions throughout the day. If she put the mother doll in the garden, I would suddenly feel compelled to work in our flower beds. If she had the dolls having tea parties, I would find myself setting out cups and snacks without thinking about it. I told myself it was just coincidence, that I was reading too much into Emma's play. But deep down I knew something was controlling our actions. Something was using the dollhouse to direct our lives. I started researching the history of our house. What I found made my blood run cold. The house had been built in 1952 by a family named the Ashfords. They had a daughter, Lucy, who was 6 years old when they moved in. Lucy had been obsessed with dollhouses. Her father had commissioned a craftsman to build her an exact replica of their home, complete with tiny furniture and dolls that looked like the family. Lucy spent every waking moment playing with it. But in 1954, Lucy died in the house. According to the newspaper reports, she had fallen down the attic stairs while playing with her dollhouse. She was found at the bottom of the stairs, her neck broken, still clutching one of the tiny dolls. After Lucy's death, the Ashfords couldn't bear to live in the house anymore. They moved away, but they left the dollhouse behind. Too painful to take, Lucy's mother had told the movers. Over the next 50 years, the house had been sold multiple times. But every family with children had moved out within a year. I found records of police reports, children claiming they heard a little girl singing in the attic, families complaining about their children's disturbed behavior after playing in the attic. One police report from 1987 particularly chilled me. A mother had called, frantic, claiming that her daughter was being controlled by something in the dollhouse. The report noted that the child had been found sleepwalking to the attic every night, and that she had started speaking in a different voice while playing with the dollhouse. The last family to live in the house before us had fled in 2019. Their daughter, according to neighbors, had become not herself after finding the dollhouse. She had stopped responding to her real name and insisted everyone call her Lucy. As I read these reports, I realized that Emma was showing the same signs. She had become completely obsessed with the dollhouse, spending every free moment in the attic. Her personality was changing too. She was becoming more withdrawn, more secretive. And then there were the conversations I overheard. Emma wasn't just talking to herself while playing, she was talking to someone else. I would hear two distinct voices coming from the attic. Emma's and another voice that sounded like a little girl but different. Older somehow despite the childish tone. "We should make the mommy doll go to sleep now," I heard the other voice say one evening. "She's been awake too long. She might try to stop us from playing." "But I don't want mommy to sleep yet," Emma replied. "We haven't finished our tea party." "Don't worry," the other voice said, and there was something cold in it that made me shiver. "We'll have lots of time to play. Forever and ever, just like I wanted." That night, I found myself overwhelmingly tired at 7 p.m., even though I'd had plenty of sleep the night before. I collapsed on the couch and fell into such a deep sleep that I didn't wake up until the next morning. When I went to check on Emma, she wasn't in her bed. I found her in the attic, still playing with the dollhouse, still talking to her invisible friend. She had been up there all night, but she wasn't tired at all. In fact, she looked more energetic than I'd seen her in weeks. "Emma, you need to come down for breakfast," I said. She looked at me with eyes that seemed older than her 6 years. "Lucy says we're not done playing yet," she replied in a voice that didn't sound quite like hers. "Who is Lucy?" I asked, though I was afraid I already knew. Emma smiled, but it wasn't her usual warm smile. It was cold, calculating. "Lucy's my best friend. She lives in the dollhouse, but she wants to come live in the real house too. She's been waiting so long for someone to play with." I tried to remove the dollhouse, but Emma threw such a violent tantrum that I was afraid she would hurt herself. She screamed and clawed at me, her face twisted with rage I'd never seen before. "You can't take Lucy away," she shrieked. "We're best friends. We're going to play together forever." When I finally calmed her down, she looked at me with Emma's eyes again, confused and scared. "Mommy, why are you crying?" she asked, with no memory of the tantrum she'd just thrown. That's when I understood what was happening. Lucy wasn't just influencing Emma through the dollhouse. She was possessing her, taking over her body for longer and longer periods each day. I called a priest, but when he arrived to bless the house, Emma or Lucy laughed at him. "Your words have no power here," she said in that cold voice. "This is my house. These are my toys. And Emma is my favorite doll now." The priest left, shaken, advising me to take Emma and leave immediately. But when I tried to pack our belongings, I found myself unable to move more than a few feet from the house. Every time I tried to put Emma in the car, she would have another violent episode and I would feel compelled to bring her back inside. We were trapped, and Lucy was getting stronger every day. Emma was disappearing more and more, replaced by this cold, manipulative child who had been dead for 50 years but refused to let go. The breaking point came when I found Emma in the attic at 3 a.m. talking to the dollhouse. But this time I could see Lucy too. A translucent figure of a little girl in a 1950s dress, standing next to Emma, both of them arranging the dolls inside the house. Now the mommy doll will go to sleep forever, Lucy was saying, and the little girl doll will stay and play with me always. Won't that be fun, Emma? Emma nodded, her movements mechanical like a marionette. In the dollhouse, I watched in horror as the Emma doll placed the mother doll in a tiny bed and covered her with a blanket. I felt an overwhelming urge to go to my bedroom to lie down to sleep and never wake up. I fought against the compulsion with everything I had. Instead of going to my bedroom, I grabbed a baseball bat from the garage and ran to the attic. Lucy's ghostly form turned to face me, her face twisted with rage. "You can't stop us," she shrieked. "Emma wants to play with me. She chose me." But I could see the real Emma trapped behind her own eyes, scared and calling for help. I raised the bat and brought it down on the dollhouse with all my strength. The tiny structure splintered and cracked, and Lucy's scream was deafening. As each piece of the dollhouse broke, I felt the compulsion to sleep getting weaker. "Emma," I called to my daughter. "Fight her. Come back to me." For a moment, Emma's real personality broke through. "Mommy," she cried, reaching for me with desperate hands. But Lucy wasn't giving up easily. The attic filled with the sound of children's laughter, but it was wrong, distorted, like a music box playing a broken tune. Objects began flying around the room, toys, books, pieces of the shattered dollhouse. I grabbed Emma and carried her toward the stairs, but Lucy's voice followed us. "You can't leave. This is my house. She's my friend now." The temperature in the house plummeted and frost began forming on the windows even though it was summer. I didn't stop to pack. I carried Emma straight to the car, threw our emergency bag in the back and drove away as fast as I could. In the rearview mirror, I could see a small figure in the attic window watching us leave. Emma slept for 12 hours straight once we got to a hotel, and when she woke up she was herself again. She had no memory of Lucy, no memory of the dollhouse, no memory of the past month at all. We never went back to the house. I hired movers to get our belongings, but I told them to leave everything in the attic. Let the next family discover Lucy's dollhouse if they dare. 6 months later, I heard through the neighborhood grapevine that the house was for sale again. Another family with a young daughter had moved in and moved out within 3 weeks. The realtor's listing mentioned previous tenants left due to family emergency. Emma and I live in a small apartment now, 3 states away from Maple Street. Emma is back to being my normal, happy little girl. But sometimes, in the middle of the night, I hear her talking to someone in her room. And when I check on her, she's always alone, but she smiles and says, "I was just playing with my friend." I've thrown away every toy that even resembles a dollhouse. I've forbidden Emma from playing with anything that looks like a miniature house. Because I know Lucy is still out there, still looking for someone to play with, still waiting for another little girl to find her dollhouse. If you ever move into an old house and find a dollhouse in the attic, don't let your children play with it. Don't even let them see it. Because some games never end and some children never let their playmates go home.